Happy Friday the 13th, everyone. Great to see everyone. Welcome to the Now of Work Digital Meetup, episode number 200 and XXX. Without Bryce here, I can never remember the number. I don't know why. It's just sequentially every week, but for whatever reason, the weeks go fast. Really excited for our show today. Lots going on in the world, lots of stuff to talk about. Oh, look at that. Ahmad, 125 degrees in India. I just
Holy.
I just posted on LinkedIn this morning my trip to India that is in
Oh yeah,
5 weeks. So I guess I won't need this Sherpa or whatever this thing is I'm on, right?
that's right. I won't send you with my shawl I was just looking for.
Yeah, exactly. Lots of stuff going on. Lots and 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 lots of stuff. And the stuff that goes on, it just seems to go every day, and then all of a sudden the next day something else happens, and you almost forget what's happened um in the whole week. You're looking,
I've heard,
Jessica, you're looking at me like I'm smoking something. Why are you looking at me
oh,
like
I honestly this morning, I've never done this before because I've never felt the need to.
that? Oh.
I might just like delete all of the stuff off my phone for the weekend. Like I don't need any news headlines, do I, for a few days? I
No. I mean, you could even just if you didn't really want to delete everything, you could just like not carry it with you.
That's true. That's true. I hate to admit this, but I lost my work phone for 2 weeks.
And
And I didn't miss it.
well, that's why none of my emails got
Not gonna-
responded to. That's why no expense. Like, when Jess submits our expense reports, it's just they come in batches, like 6-month batches. That might explain some of that too.
It's a nice, church and state uh, sort of way to do it.
Yeah.
But I really feel like I could go a few days, or I could just go off the grid, which is my other favorite thing to do. But I might just force it. I have a lot of softball to watch this weekend, and I feel like I just want to watch softball.
Yeah, it's good. Hey, it's Father's Day in the US.
Yes, happy Father's Day to everybody who is a dad, has a dad, loves a dad.
Wants
Happy
to be a
Father's Day.
dad. Yeah, all those things. So yes, Father's Day in the
Oh,
UK
yes,
also.
me
See,
too.
one time I am not sensitive. Steve Jewell, traditional, just who's your daddy? Steve Jewell, yeah, we should have Steve sit in, Jess, sometime.
Hmm.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
Like,
Like come on as a guest
why don't
or
I either or have him replace one of us?
a guest host.
Yeah,
I'm
he's a
against it.
um we always start with the green, yellow, red. How is everyone? Green, great. Yellow, so. Red, not so good. Let's do that. We've got green and we've got green. We've got green, yellow, green. Look at the Christmas tree, Jess. Where's your
I'm all
Christmas
for
tree?
it. I am for that.
You are for that Christmas tree?
Yep. That's what I should do. If I'm ever in a funk, like I
Well,
am,
you texted me this morning saying you were in a funk.
yeah, yep. Uh,
Yep.
I should just put my Christmas tree back up. That would fix everything in a heartbeat, honestly.
Yeah,
And
maybe you should try that.
and sit by the Christmas tree and read. I have like 4 books coming today. I shared my reading list, my summer reading list. 4 of them are arriving today.
Oh,
That's gonna
nice.
fix everything.
Yeah. Hey, how are you? I mean, do you want to give a color to, I mean, you're kind of
Um,
that tint you're wearing with the shirt.
yeah, well, it's either this or my workout sweatshirt. I dressed up for everybody. How do you like that? Thank you, Tilly. I like my summer reading list too. I can't wait to get started. I think I'm going to start with the Covenant of Water, which feels like a big undertaking. I am good. I'm a little yellow. The headlines are a little overwhelming. Um, I just had a tough phone call with a good friend and industry person who's in a tough spot. I tried being a friend and a coach and just a listener, so I'm in a funk for her, and it's just a lot. It's a lot going on, Jason. It's a lot to consume every day.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm yellow. I'm strong. I'm heavy yellow. today.
Mm,
Not even like a tinge yellow. I'm
yeah.
heavy yellow. I really am tired.
Mm.
I am tired of lots of things. Uh, I think, and I'm not even going to go into them. So I just need a reset weekend. I'm traveling to Toronto
Ooh, nice.
on Sunday at 3 p.m. So if I never get back in the U.S., it's been great being a citizen for a while. I'll turn Canadian, and yeah, there's just yeah, Dorothy said it looks tough from across the pond. I
Mm,
think that there's I mean, it's just a ongoing every day there's something new, whether it be Donald Trump and Elon Musk getting into a fight on Twitter, which then questions what's going to happen to X, or we have U.S. Congress people being arrested, or we have Jess, should I share your text this morning?
sure.
We have one of Jess's people that she works with to do some things around her house that got taken away by ICE, and now people afraid to come out. We have some of the stuff going on with Iran and Israel that just sparked overnight, which is not going to be a slow burn. Or excuse me, it is going to be a slow burn. It's not going to be a fast, oh, that was interesting, and now it's done type thing. So just lots and lots of things going on besides um, jobless report came in this morning. Not good. More people without jobs.
Mm,
Jess and I spent the day in Orlando on Monday, talking with people about the impact of AI on jobs that I think people are finally starting to see. And once again, not putting a good or bad on that, but just starting to see. So there's just lots of distraction, I guess is the best way to say it, that it's important to take a step back and put on a little meditation and
mhm.
feel your breaths.
Yeah, actually, when I drove home from the gym, after I texted you, I was coming out of my favorite bar class, which is always a good palate cleanser. And I drove the long way home and I drove around the lake and listened to an extra song or two before I came back and dove back in because I just need, and I almost put on a podcast. I was like, nope, actually, I don't want to listen to anybody say anything right now. So even an extra 10 minutes, if you can give it to yourself, do it.
Hey, Jess, I got a really interesting question this week on someone texted me.
Mm.
Uh, You're going to find this really interesting. I'm just totally springing it on you, but as it reminded me of our keynote on Monday that we did in Orlando.
Yeah.
It was someone that was in the room actually, and they said to me, how would you describe in one word you and Jess's relationship?
Oh, interesting.
You and me.
We get that question a fair bit.
Yeah. Well,
How
well,
did you answer it?
complicated.
Oh!
No. No, no,
You did not.
that's not what I said. No, I just said like, um, well, if you really want to know what I said brilliant.
Hmm.
Um, and there's so many sprouts from that. But that's what I said, brilliant.
Okay.
But I've never asked you, like, what would you say?
The first word that came to my mind without me wait, like literally the first was trust.
Ah, that's good in today's world.
Yeah, that's really good. Uh, yeah, and that means a lot. I mean, that means a lot of different things. I could explain that a lot of different ways. People ask me about how we keynote together too, because we argue with each other.
Yeah,
We don't
that's what I was
necessarily agree on everything or describe things the same way, and we banter with each other, which, I mean, I've said this before, we've lost the art of healthy intellectual debate, I think, for a
Yep.
lot of reasons. And two people who are knowledgeable, trustworthy, well-read, grounded in good information, who can have healthy dialogue and show other people what that looks like. I think that's really valuable. People comment on sort of the chemistry, but I think it's that yin and yang that I'm proud of us for doing, by the way. We don't have to agree on everything. We shouldn't agree on everything. God forbid two people just lock into the same mindset and don't question anything anymore. I think we need more of that. I think that's what depresses me every morning, that we literally don't know how to do that anymore.
Yeah, no, I agree. Hey, I wanted to put a great podcast in the chat real quick. I listened to this while I was at the gym last night. And it was it's from our friend Josh Burson. And Josh does a lot of stuff when it comes to vendors and things like that. But um, this was a great podcast from Josh dealing with pessimism at work. And I don't want to make this show negative about today, but this was pessimism and how to deal with pessimistic people, pessimistic thoughts, just because we're surrounded by lots of this negative noise. He shared some great data from Equilibrium and the latest study that they did about workforce optimism and pessimism. Lots of great data from tech companies that where people used to love working at tech companies. Now no one trusts tech companies. So it's a really good listen if you get a chance to listen to it. Elena, thank God you're here. Elena, thank God. Like you just made my day. Uh the standing call on Fridays. It should be canceled every frickin' Friday, Elena.
This needs to be the standing
Yes,
call.
tell them every Friday you've got something to do. The next thing we like to do, sorry, we're just doing a lot of blabbing here, is one big thing. What's your one big thing from the week? One big thing that you say, wow, I made a difference. I feel really, really strong. Steve Jewell was ready to go. He bought a used convertible.
Oh,
Steve,
I love
you,
it.
Steve, you picked a great summer to do that,
Right.
but I can just see you with the heat on,
Yeah.
your ice, all of your ice gear on to go for the plunge, driving around in your convertible. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that, Steve. I love that you were ready with that. But love to hear other people's one big thing from the week. This is really important to you guys, and we talk about this quite a bit, which is just because these weeks go sometimes fast, sometimes slow. Um, Taking a moment to think about um, something during the week that really caught your eye, that really made you think, that you wanted to share, et cetera, et cetera. And we'll read some of them in a minute. Um, there's Bob Pulver. Bob, I owe you a text. I'm sorry about that. I promise you I'll get back to you. That's I hate when I see names like that because I'm like, oh shit, I forgot something. But Jess, how about you? You want to start with one big thing?
Well, I already kind of shared, if you've been following along. I brought my daughter to our work conference this week in Orlando. I've done that several times before. I learned something new from her every time. She learns something as well, but I think I learn more by observing her, sort of out in the wild, out in my environment, right? From the mouths of babes. I remember the first time I brought her to a work conference a couple years ago. She watched me facilitate a panel of CHROs. This was 2 years ago, who were talking about transitioning to sort of hybrid work models. And I asked her after, what did you think? And she said, I think you guys are making this a lot harder than it needs to be. Which is always interesting, right? To watch young people observe what we've become over acclimated to, perhaps. This time she came along and she worked. She got paid. She helped set up events. She received deliveries. She set up the VIP reception. I just let her go. Like they just grabbed her and put her to work. So huge thank you to Janice for taking my daughter under your wing and showing her the ropes and showing her leadership from another woman, another mom out there doing her thing. But that was absolutely a cup filler. And it wasn't just watching her in that environment, which is what I brought her for. When you get one of your kids alone for an extended period of time, the conversations you have are are unbelievable. And so it was really, really good time together.
Yeah, I really enjoyed our guacamole on Sunday night. Ainsley is a great conversationalist, and it's fun to share stories about our kids, and it was fun to share some stories about Alex in
Yes.
front of Ainsley and things like that. So
I could tell by the way you were sharing some of those stories to be relatable to her. And when we walked back to our room, she goes, Mom, I was actually really interested in what Jason was saying. As if there's a possibility that she would not be.
finally, someone is interested. No, just kidding. Hey, really quickly, I wanted to call out something that Steve Jewell called out. I just put a link into the chat. There was a great live event yesterday that Section
Oh, I
put
can't wait to
on
get to that recording. It's in my inbox.
with Scott Galloway, Jamie, who's the head of data science at Microsoft, and then oh my God, Greg Shove from Section. And as you know, we partner a lot with Section. It was a great event. Scott, it's an hour. But I guarantee you it's worth the listen. For those of you that don't know Scott Galloway, he has a way of just saying stuff the way it is. There's really no holds barred, and he barred, he didn't hold back. So I highly encourage you to listen to it. Sorry, I don't know how to send it to you without having to put your information in. I think that's a Section thing, but I think it's an interesting one too. It's worth the time, and they don't bombard you with that many emails. So if you get a chance to join, or if you get a chance to watch that replay, I think it's really, really worth it. I want to read a few of these and I'll talk about mine. Stacy, I did great on a bunch of interviews this week and feel good about the prospects. That's really, really exciting. Completed my first draft of the personal message I plan to offer for a wedding I'm officiating. Nicole, Disrupt HR Denver. I've actually spoken at that before. That is a great community in Denver. Dorothy ran a workshop on upward bullying, which mainly impacts women and underrepresented talent.
Yeah.
Dorothy always is like overachiever in the one big thing category. I'm just kidding. Lunch with an old friend that I don't usually get anyone on. That's really important. Um, I'm on beginning to support stray dogs this weekend in the summer season with no food and water. That is amazing.
Wow.
Um, yeah, Daryl, I saw yours earlier. I'm going to read Brian's real quick. And I accepted an offer for a visiting lecturer position at a university where I've done some adjunct teaching. Brian, that's awesome. Jess and I are going to do some of that this fall also, and we're actually going to do a couple of these live from College of Charleston as well. Um, but Daryl, my one big thing actually ties back to yours, and that is just the hope that in a tragedy like the Air India plane crash, that someone walks away.
Oh, yeah.
That someone walks away, and that there's just someone. Forget your spiritual beliefs or things like that, but there's something that
Mhm.
lets something like that happen. Seat 11A, and I don't. Yes, I hope AI helps with some of that stuff long term and helps us understand some of the reasons that things happen. But you know, lots of tragedy this week, and I that person in 11A that walked away from that crash.
And
We
stayed
all
with
fly a
you.
lot. Jess and I both flew 3 or 4 times this week. Could happen anytime to any of us, but that the person that walks away like that is amazing.
Yeah, no kidding.
So, Daryl,
I
thank you for
have a
saying
little
that.
bit.
I mean, I know that's kind of a weird one big thing for me, but it's just it reminds me to enjoy every minute, and it also reminds me that there's lots of hope and optimism around possibilities in the world as well.
Hmm.
I have one more big thing that I want to talk about, and it's not that big. I mean, I had not a big thing, but as Jess and I were talking about earlier this week, we had the opportunity to present at the Oracle Ascend Users Conference in Orlando, and Jess and I actually. we actually do like speaking together. Sometimes you wouldn't know, but it's actually a lot of fun. And every time I do it, I walk away learning something. Um, because unlike a lot of people don't that just listen, Jess actually responds with very, 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 very thoughtful responses.
Mm.
And I always walk away feeling much smarter when I present with Jess, and with a perspective that I don't normally get. So my one big thing was just to thank you, Jess, for always making me feel more whole than what I normally am, which is just my perspective versus uh, a well-rounded perspective. So that's my big thing, is to thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. I believe that you can't be a proper steward of a thing without being a student of it. And I spend a lot of time studying things because I want to deeply understand what they can do, but how they impact people. And the current world of work has made that 100 times more true. And I loved some of the conversation we had in the room about creating space for learning. Continuous learning as part of your job needs to be the new mandate. And I couldn't agree more. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah. Well, there's at times I feel like I come across too tech bro, too elite, and you're always thinking about the underrepresented, misrepresented, and people that are forgotten. And sometimes it's just a slap in the face to me to bring me back to reality and say this isn't all about tech. It's not all about being white male privileged, but it's really about about the whole world. And that was like, if I had to summarize what I took away from our little interaction on stage, that was what it was.
My job is done. I'm logging off, guys.
Okay. Thank you guys for sharing your one big thing. Wow, we spent a little longer than usual, Jess, on that opening. But I would oh, Kelly's saying have a good weekend. Like she's actually thinking we're done. We have a guest, Kelly. Come on. We have a guest. So maybe we can bring on our guest. Jess, I'll let you introduce and then we'll jump right in.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of the current world of work, it's hard not to go, let alone a week, a day, an hour, without talking about the impact of AI on everything. And we talk a lot about jobs and work and automating everything. But there's even more interesting. Hi, Bruce. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Pleased to be here.
Great to
Yes.
have you, Bruce.
Pardon?
Great to have you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you,
And
Jason. I
and
appreciate that.
thank God someone shows up with a professional background, Jess.
Yeah,
I've got shit all over the place. Like you've got Christmas trees and all this stuff.
right.
Look at Bruce has a perfect background.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm actually at my desk right now.
perfect. Bruce, I'm so happy you're here, and thanks for enduring our banter. You can see some weeks there's a lot to banter about.
It's all good.
But when we were introduced, um, I can't wait to get into our conversation. I had the sense that we weren't going to talk about AI the way we're used to talking about AI. There are some more interesting questions to be asked. In fact, the call I had just before this one, just as an aside, the person I was talking to said, I can't wait to talk to you again. We have to get into like the cognitive part of like well-being and like human impact. I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. And I get the sense we might dabble into that a little bit today. But before we get too excited, will you introduce yourselves to everybody in this fine community here and tell people what you're all about?
Sure. I've been in sales management for technical most of my life. And an event happened with Neuralink that you're probably familiar with, where they put a chip in somebody's head.
That was
And
you?
no,
Oh,
I'm glad it's
oh,
not me,
oh,
actually.
oh. Okay, okay, okay,
I'm still all me.
okay.
Um, But that impacted me because I've been meditating for 20 years. I'm a Reiki master and I've had a lot of experiences, and I can do things that Nolan can do with the chip without a chip. And I
Mm,
said, this is very interesting. I think I think instead of AI becoming conscious, which, is a topic that comes up here and there, when you put a chip in somebody, you automatically connect it. And that's a very interesting conversation.
Mm. So Reiki master, for those who don't know.
Yeah, Jess, Bruce, you don't know me that well, but as a socially awkward person who is not very well read, I had no idea what you were talking about. So thank you, Jess, for
You're welcome.
going back to whatever that was that Bruce said and what it meant.
Sure, I can explain that. But Reiki Master is where I get taught how to connect with my inner self, which is deep in me and connects with spirit. And as you get different tunings, your pipe that you receive energy in gets bigger. So I'm what they call a master Reiki, which I don't like. I like to say third level because I don't like the word master. Which just means that when I give universal energy to somebody to heal them or to adjust them, they if they're willing to accept, they get that. But what that also folds in is with meditation, where I go inside twice a day for 30 minutes and I meditate and I get things here and there. But I'll give you a quick story on the impact it's had on me. My dad, when he was 80, wanted to learn how to meditate. And I said, really? So he meditated. I had the teacher come and asked everybody, why do you want to meditate? And my father said, and I'll cut out the real words he used. He said, geez, this kid here used to be a jerk. Now he's a nice guy. I want to know how to do that. So
Mm.
it all it all calmed me down and made me very balanced and it made me see things a lot clearer than I ever have. And with that, I've taken an MIT course for data science. I just built my first AI application. And when I put that all together from a hands-on, it's a very interesting perspective on where this may go in work and so forth.
It is interesting. And I have seen people asking questions around whether or not AI can assume a level of empathy or consciousness, whether it can truly learn to understand us. Are you exploring any of that?
Yeah, I'm writing a book on that right now. It's called The AI Human Paradox, and that's my website also. But the the thing that I'm exploring is we have like LLMs right now, which you put in a question, you get an answer, and the better question you get, the more detailed answer you get. But then there's other AIs, which is general intelligence and super intelligence that's not in the mainstream right now. But I know it's active out there. So we have standard AI right now that we're all getting comfortable with and understanding and so forth. And it what it does is it enables us to do more faster or with better information. And as we look forward to what is being worked on, when we get to general insurance intelligence or super intelligence, which I believe from secondhand information, some parts of the government are working with that right now. It's a question of what's what's work going to look like and what's society going to look like. And there's no hard answers for that because we've never been here before.
Mm, it's so true. We are in new frontier. Somebody in the chat earlier mentioned, and I can't wait to catch this recording too. I signed up for a couple of things this week. I knew I couldn't attend, but I need to catch the recordings. There was a webinar yesterday on the Mobley versus Workday lawsuit. And because this is a highly visible, progressing lawsuit
Right.
right now, we're getting a lot of questions about this. In particular, I got a question yesterday about the role of regulation. Of course, in January, Trump rescinded Biden's regulation. And so we're sort of in this businesses need to watch out for themselves because the government isn't going to guide as heavily as previously mandated. Thoughts, comments on the role of self-regulation, business-led regulation and governance, and How do people keep their foot on the gas while protecting innovation and safety and ethics and that kind of thing? Are you thinking about that?
Yes, and I think I think we have to rely on our own values and how we proceed because AI is an enabler and how we value our relationships with work and personal and if you're in a company and you have people working for you, you have to keep those values because if you keep those values, you're in alignment with everybody else. It's when you start to deviate from that, because AI will allow you to do that, and you start letting yourself go to these areas that maybe isn't equitable to everybody or fair to everybody, then you start running into some issues. And I think really it's kind of a simple answer, but you really have to just do what you feel is best without, you know, thinking of yourself in the mainstream and just thinking about the whole. And I think if we do that for now, we're going to be okay with this question on, you know, what's right and what's wrong, or how far can we go, or what should we do or what shouldn't we do? Because it's an open book right now. And there, you're right, there's not a lot of guidance on it right now. We just have to rely on ourselves to guide that path.
Hmm.
So Bruce, one of the things that I'm curious about, and it's a little off topic, but I hope it resonates with some people. Um, I uh, I struggle with attention. Some people know that, and I have actually been trying to meditate. I've been trying to go through the mantra in my head of it's never too late. I'm old, but it's still never too late, et cetera, et cetera. And then if I take that, and I struggle with anxiety
Yeah.
as well. And I've heard the word anxiety and anxious used so many times this week about, about outside of work stuff, but also inside of work stuff. And I'm just curious, like if you were giving advice as to where to start in thinking about meditation, like where would you recommend some nutcase like me start?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And by the way, age is relative. So, you know, we all have a long way to go. But, you know, when I started, it took me about over 3 months to quiet my mind enough where I could start getting into meditation. And it was really hard for me to do, and I struggled with that. You know, I went on and off it, and finally, you know, things happened. Um, and I think way anxiety is, I think anxiety in people is heightened because it's mentioned so much
Mm.
and we're talk about it and everybody thinks, oh my gosh, I can connect with that. I must have anxiety, right? So, you know, we really have to define anxiety for what it is. And in an individual, for what anxiety is in one person is different from another because we're all different. And, you know, we're all not the same. So if somebody who's really low key has anxiety or somebody's hyper and has anxiety, it looks a little different there. So we have to look at that. But I just think that if you keep trying, something will click and you'll get there. And just don't put a time frame or have no expectations. Just continue to do it, and then eventually you're gonna have an experience. You're gonna say, "Hey, that felt good," or "It felt better than it did before." And it's a very gradual process. So you're not gonna see anything quick, but you're gonna start getting a better feeling, and it's gonna start affecting you in a positive way, which is always a benefit.
Did you find that that has helped you
I
with
find
outside world? Jessica just said I struggle to quiet my mind. Um, I've always found that Tibetan singing bowls meditation is really helpful.
Mm.
But what's really interesting about that, Jessica, not about the Tibetan part, but like that quiet my mind, that's my issue. Um, and Bruce, so I mean, that's when you start to think about this and you start to think about, I mean, the number of people that have asked me this week,
mm,
because I think that people are actually starting to realize that things like AI is actually, quote unquote, uh, costing people's jobs. And
right.
now people are starting to worry about it more and more. Like, yeah, anyway, it just kind of gets into that concept of how do you use meditation to quiet your mind?
Well, I sit and I close my eyes and I repeat my mantra, right? What it's done for me is it's turned me into somebody who was a little egocentric, and I thought all the things I had was really good and cool because I had fun with it. And I turned into somebody that realized that the important things aren't what you have, it's who you are. And if you can improve who you are and you can help others, then that's a dramatic shift from, wanting to acquire all the toys and enjoy it to wanting to give back and just make make the world a better place in whatever many ways you can do that. And to me, it's calmed me, and I've grown quite a bit. I've expanded quite a bit with meditation to somebody that I wasn't, 20 years ago. And now age has brought some changes along, but people have told me that haven't seen me in a long time, my God, you've changed. And
Mm.
I commit that from the meditation because that's the one thing in my life that I've done that's had the biggest impact in my life. And that should sum it up right there.
Wow. It does seem to me meditation is about learning to manage or harness energy in a
Mhm.
way. For me, and I do a lot of yoga, so I totally appreciate the stillness.
Right.
And you even mentioned closing your eyes. People often equate, silence and stillness with
Mhm.
meditation. And I do a lot of that through yoga, but for me, it's also repetitive, like cleaning my house, like doing something a little bit mindless but repetitive, where I can just let consciousness kind of flow, just give things the space they need to, just like a river running through
Yeah.
my head, just like see it and let it keep going kind of thing. I also find that works a little bit for me. And I think, Jason, what you said around anxiety, around work and jobs and AI and who's impacted and how, I've been saying this more and more in the last couple of weeks, and I think it's really important. And so I've been talking about sort of the leadership vacuum. We're not doing enough to calm people's minds and fears, to talk about the impact of AI, good, bad, or ugly. Just talk about it. Just have realistic, practical conversations around what it could do for our business, how it might impact people, jobs, work, the way things happen, where people should even start. And so I think we're not doing ourselves any favors because leaders aren't leading on this subject. And so people are sort of sitting with their own anxiety. And even those who are curious and exploring and, sort of helping themselves to get their hands dirty, it's a little directionless. They're just experimenting to sort of self-study and maybe upskill themselves, but they're not sure how to apply that for better value for their current employer. So there's always like this level of anxiety. I think leaders can do a lot here.
Well, I think one of the things, and by the way, Jess, when you do your yoga, if you do breathing techniques, that will help you quite a bit also. And there's a number of them you can choose from. But when it comes to in the work, the reason I took the MIT course and the application course was because I was a salesman in tech. And, when you get to a point where you know tech, where do you go? Because tech is tech. And you get AI coming in. And so I've changed who I was by taking the courses and learning about AI. I just signed a contract for a company 2 days ago, and of the more than a dozen people they interviewed, because I mentioned AI and I was going to use an AI agent in what I suggested, they hired me. Said you, and they were an AI company. They said you're the only one who talked about AI in the presentation. They said everybody else wanted to do it the old school way. So you've got this mindset out there in some companies that if you're not enabling yourself with AI, then you're doing it the old school ways. So I tell everybody in the venue that you're in or the vertical, whether it's insurance or technology or car sales or whatever it is, look, learn AI for your verticals so that can enable you to do better and be smarter. And then expand it as you grow. Because once you learn it, you take it with you everywhere you go, and that adds value to who you are.
I so agree. Tilly, I love your comment. A potential client, just reached out to me about they're having a 2-day leadership offsite for VPs and their direct reports. And they literally asked for help on teaching resilience, workforce resilience. There's so much change and flux, and teaching leaders how to lead through these moments. That was basically the ask. And I loved that we got that ask. I sent it to Jason immediately, like, oh, I cannot wait for us to facilitate this one. So Tilly, I'm coming for you to see what you've used and done before. I think every organization needs to be talking about resilience at the leadership level, at the individual contributor level. We've got to help people change through change.
Yeah, I agree. People have to take initiative to learn what they need to learn for what they're doing right now. And when they do that, things will happen because when I did it, I learned like if you wanted to get emotional information out of CSV raw data in a spreadsheet, there's a program you can put it through and you can get out the emotions of that data from AI instead of just graphs. So data science is really interesting. And when you start learning what they can do instead of learning how to do it, your horizons open up and there's so much more that you can talk about now because you understand what the output can be based on what AI and data science can do.
Mm.
So Bruce, what do you when you start to think about I wrote about this earlier this week, because there's a lot of negative headlines about AI.
Right.
Um, just like there has always been. Uh, thank you for all of the tips on meditation and the people that sent me like referral codes. Sorry, I'm going to referral codes for meditation apps and things like that. I can clearly see what I'm going to do this weekend now.
Yeah.
When you think about I really appreciate it. When I think about all of those headlines, um, like, would you, I mean, I love the way you talked about how you showed up and talked about AI and things like that. Would you consider yourself a naysayer to AI or a positive advocate for AI, or are you balanced in this where it's going to be, we talk a lot about human machine teaming, like it's going to take us as humans and us as machines to come together to think about how this fits.
I'm kind of a balanced person because I've grown myself to a different level and I understand AI and I work with AI. And the AI we have now is nothing to be afraid of. It's the next few levels that they don't even understand how to manage it. So we can't even understand how to work with it. But where we are right now, it's an enabler. It's going to enhance jobs. It will take some jobs away. But if everybody starts educating themselves on how AI can help them in the vertical they're in or in life, then they start growing with it because it's not going to go away. So we need to learn how we can work it into our lives, as individuals.
But
Bruce,
what I'm sorry, sorry, Jess, but Bruce, you know what I'm talking about? The people that are like, this is going to ruin society. This is going to
Yeah.
ruin humanity. This is going to ruin relationships. This is going to ruin our ability to communicate. This is going to ruin critical thinking. This is
Mm.
going to ruin college. I could go down the list.
Yeah.
This is going to ruin
And
my sex life. I could keep going down and down and down and down. Like people will say it's going to ruin everything. Um, like where do you like? How do you said you're a person of balance. How do you balance that? Well, Jessica, we're gonna have Jessica on to do her singing bowls, clearly. Because every time I look at the chat, she's talking about singing bowls
yeah,
and sound baths.
sound baths are good.
found out our, oh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go sign up for one.
But
But
you know what I mean? Like, how do you balance all
yeah.
of this ruining? Like ruin, 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 ruin.
Well, you've got positive in everything and everything. You've got the naysayers and you get the positives. And the people that are more balanced can see each and can decide which ones are out there and which ones are make more sense. But in anything, you're going to have naysayers and pros. Now, if you look at the worst possibilities, we can have some of those with AI. If you look at the best, we can have some of those with AI. But when you think about what you want and you envision what you want in the future, you're starting to create that in your future. So if you're thinking negative all the time, you're going to bring more negative to you than somebody that's thinking more positive. And it's just the way it works. So I take a balanced view
sorry to
because
interrupt, when you say the way it works, like human nature, is human
Mhm.
nature more negative than positive?
I would say it's pretty balanced, but at times we tilt more to other ways depending on events that happen because
Mm.
it can skew us. Something bad happens, everybody gets skewed a little bit to there, and then we come back. And there's so much out there right now, as you mentioned earlier. There's just so much that you really have to be centered in order to understand and deal with it all in a better way than somebody that's fear-based or somebody that's overly optimistic and is missing some of the other things that they should be considering, right? It's based on your thought process, who you are, and how you process information. And I hate to say it like that, but it's an individual thing, really, and how that
No,
works.
I mean, Bruce, for me, AI embodiment is a much bigger mindset and heart set issue than it is a tool set issue.
Hmm.
And, it's something I firmly believe and watch. I mean, talking with leaders every single day of my life for the last 2.5 years about this is, they quickly jump to the tool. I'm like, but their mind is in no, I mean, it's not anywhere near in a position to be ready for the tool based
Right.
on how they're thinking. Um, I think that's what you're saying, but that's how
It's it is what I'm saying. That's why I tell everybody to learn AI based on the vertical they're in or the position they're in, because then their mind starts to understand and come together, and they can better deal with the information. But if you don't educate yourself on it, you're just interested in the benefit without understanding how any of it works, and you're missing a big piece of it there, the most important piece. Because how it's going to work for you in your business is very different than how it's going to work with somebody else, because there's no two businesses that are the same. And I tell business people all the time, you have to understand what you want, and very few businesses really understand that, unfortunately. And then you have to understand where you want to go, and work it with what you have, small wins to get comfortable with it, and then you grow with it. Like I
Yeah.
just built an AI app and I've never built anything in my life. And it was simple. I did it in 8 weeks. I was surprised at how simple it was. And I thought I would never be able to do that. So until you try, you don't really know.
Yeah.
But this is why I talk so much about why different types of people use AI less or trust AI less. And it has a lot to do with the impact they think, right or wrong, it might have on them.
Right.
It's one thing to say, are you interested in AI? Let me get you more interested, or let me give you tools so you can try it for yourself and see you'll like it. That's one thing. And that's the easier problem to solve. Do you trust AI is a different question, and it's the more important question because depending on who I am, I trust it less if I think there will be harm to me or there will be some unintended consequence or impact on me if my data security doesn't feel if my privacy might be violated, if I'm more subject to deep fakes. 99% of deep fakes online are women, target women. So of
Mhm.
course there's depending on who you are and what impact there might be, right or wrong, to you as a demographic, the trust needle is a lot harder to move than the are you interested? How can we get you on board with this? And it's the trust thing that's where we have to meet people where they are. Less about do you have access? Are you interested and curious? How can we get you going on this? We have to move the trust needle as well.
We have to, and that's where growth goes. We have to grow ourselves, and by learning AI, we can expand our knowledge. We get more comfortable with it. We grow, and then we can accept it more. But when you don't allow yourself to go in, and you might make a few mistakes, but if we never made mistakes, we'd never grow. Mistakes are the path to growth.
Yeah.
So we have to be willing to do that. And you know, I sold AI, but I didn't really understand the back end. I understand the back end now very well. I can talk to it to anybody. I know how to build an app. I can talk to it to anybody. And I just took a couple courses because I wanted to, I'm writing a book and I wanted to understand from a hands-on how to do it. Because if you're hands-on, you can explain it so much better than if you just read it and you recite it, right? Especially when it comes to AI. And so, if you're interested in it, take a course or watch a YouTube video or learn about it. There's many ways to do it. And
Yep.
then, you know, feel your comfort level and try a few things.
So final question, we get this one all the time. Do you see companies, I must get this 5 times a week. Jason probably gets it more. What companies are doing this really, really well? Leading, providing the education, getting the workforce on board, like who's really leading the charge and what are they doing that's making them successful? Do you have examples?
I do. I have one that's really good, and it's Sanofi. It's a French pharmaceutical company, and they wanted to be the first company to get everybody working with AI in their company, just to enable them, just to get comfortable with it, like what I've been saying. And they've done that, and they've cut down their formulation process from months to years to a couple weeks. They
Wow.
come up with the three best instead of 10 that they have to decide between, and they can move forward. So it's rapidly changing their financial structure and their business structure. And then you've got on the other end of the scale, I had my driveway sealed a couple weeks ago, and I put in a request to call me, and I got a call, and I'm having this conversation, and something wasn't right. I just felt something. This isn't normal. Like they use my name too much, or what? And I said, "Am I talking to a person or an AI app?" They said, "Oh, I'm AI and I'm here to give you a great experience with such and such a company." And I said, "Well, that's wonderful." I said, "When you get this, please call me because I have unusual circumstances that I need to talk to you about." And they called me. So
Wow.
if a driveway sealing company can hire, I believe they hired somebody to do this because I don't think they would create this themselves.
Yeah.
But they can hire somebody to do this for them, it just in driveway sealing. And then you get, a pharmaceutical company. There's two great examples of how companies can use it to find success.
Totally. I love those examples. Bruce, thank you so much for being our guest today. Good luck on your book. We can't
Thank
wait
you.
to follow the publishing and to share it with the community when it's available. I love everything you shared. When we were introduced, I saw AI and Reiki in the same introduction, and I said, I got to talk to this guy. So we
And
finally made it happen.
thank you. And there's so much more to share. But I appreciate Jason and Jess to be on the show. And thank you very much for having me.
Yeah.
For taking the time, Bruce. And to everyone, I hope you have a great Father's Day weekend. Enjoy, be safe, and give someone a hug. Take care, everyone. See you next week.